And so I think it can be really helpful. Just put your foot down and make the decision, I'm only going to watch Korean content. And if you make that decision, you just put your foot down and decide, it makes it a lot easier to stop doing that comparison. And it's that comparison itself that's causing all of the pain and the emotional turbulence, right? Because if all you do is watch Korean content, then the question stops becoming, is this better than the English content? And it just becomes, is this the best Korean content I could be watching right now? Or is there better Korean content? And either way, you're going to be watching Korean content. So even though I work full time and feel like I have no time to immerse, I find surprisingly that I spend 30 hours per week on YouTube and Instagram alone, according to screen time stats. A lot of passive listening to long-form English commentary and doom scrolling. These are mostly subconscious, coping, distracting behaviors that default to English. And unfortunately, the topics I'm interested in are much better in English: geopolitics, language learning, comedy. Do you have any tips to change the default coping content to the target language? My roadblocks are that I find a lot of content I get fed in my Korean-only YouTube account to be uninteresting. Couple vlogs, interviewing cooked bachelors, comedians interviewing idols, Korean looks maxing, etc. I tried a YouTube channel that does geopolitical commentary, but it's not as good, and every time I hear a string of transliterated English proper nouns, I feel like what I'm doing is silly. I think a lot of people feel something very similar, including me. This is something that I struggle with too. So first of all, it sounds like you've barely gone past the first layer of Korean YouTube. And the first layer of YouTube for most people is always going to suck. Like imagine if you just made a brand new English YouTube account. What you would get recommended at first was like generic English news that you probably don't care about, like Mr. Beast related content, pop music content, celebrity news garbage. Some people are going to like that stuff, but there's a good chance that if you're finding all these types of content you're describing as like not what you're interested in, there's a good chance that even on default English YouTube, you wouldn't find that interesting either. So you have to kind of dig to find the content that you actually like. So what I think about it is you don't have to actually do this. You can do this as a thought experiment, but if you go and get on a train in Korea, there's going to be Korean people of all walks of life, all age, riding that train. And so there are going to be smart, educated adult men watching YouTube. What are they going to be watching, right? Are they going to be watching these looks massing videos and like idols doing new workouts? Some of them will, but probably not. They're probably going to be watching some kind of intellectual content or people talking about intellectually stimulating ideas. You just have to go and find what those are, because that's not going to be the default first thing that YouTube recommends to you. And so you have to go and find out what those are. You shouldn't just try to replicate your English interests in Japanese. You should try to kind of find new interests that are unique to the target language. For me, like this is some of, like I mentioned, I spent a lot of time watching Japanese YouTube this week when I was sick in bed. And a lot of what I was watching is stuff that I wouldn't watch in English, but I still really like. For example, I have an interest in Japanese literature. I don't really like reading Japanese literature that much, but I like the concepts of Japanese literature. Like I have the intellectual curiosity of like, what do the most famous and like well-regarded Japanese authors write about? What are the topics that have like persisted throughout time? What did they do that made them so famous? Like what did they do with the Japanese language that was unique? For example, I always really liked Murakami Haruki. I haven't really read him in a long time, although watching these videos have made me want to try reading him again for the first time in many years. I stumbled across a lot of videos of Japanese people talking about Murakami Haruki and discussing what makes him unique and how the topics that he wrote about changed throughout his career. There's lots of people analyzing Murakami Haruki in English, but those people haven't actually read his original writing. And part of what I found so fascinating was the specific way he used the Japanese language. So I want to hear Japanese people that actually read it in the original, compare it to other literature written in Japanese, and hear them talk about their analysis of it, especially people that like do this for a living and can do that at the highest level. Listening to that was really fascinating for me. Some of the analyses I heard of Murakami Haruki, I'd never like thought about those perspectives myself. And another example is, overall, I'm not like the biggest fan in the world of Japanese comedy, but Japanese comedy is actually really broad. And one of the ones that's pretty easy to get into is the subgenre called Ogiri, which is basically a kind of competitive form of Japanese comedy where, I won't go into it too much, but basically someone comes up with a topic, kind of like a question or like a fill in the blank type of sentence. And then a bunch of comedians compete to try to see who can fill in the blank or answer the question in the funniest way possible. And they'll do this like back to back to back. So they'll try to be like, how many unique answers can you squeeze out of one question or one fill in the blank? It's nothing like American comedy, but it's still pretty funny. The longer that you spend in the language, the more you discover these unique things that you like. And then you become invested in it. It kind of takes an upfront investment to kickstart this process of finding the things that you're going to like, that are totally new, and going and uncovering the content that's going to appeal to you. That's probably not just going to be the default content that shows up as the first thing. I think spending a little bit more time to dig beneath the surface to find the stuff that you're going to like. The other thing is, if you're learning this language, you should extract joy from the language itself, separate from the content. For me personally, right now I'm trying to improve my Japanese a little bit. So when I hear a well-formed sentence in Japanese, it inherently brings me joy. Here were just two sentences that really stuck out in my mind when I was listening to Japanese YouTube this week. Someone was talking about social media and how social media algorithms are basically optimized for engagement. And that's how we'd say it in English, right? That's a common way to hear it. Social media algorithms are basically just, they're optimizing for engagement, right? But what he said is, content on social media, omoshiroi jun ni narabu. That's the specific expression he used, which literally means, narabu means to line up and get in line. So he's basically saying like posts on social media get in line in order of how omoshiroi they are, which basically means like how entertaining they are. And that's just like a way to conceptually frame the same basic idea in a way that I never would have thought of. And so I was like, oh, that's a really good expression. Like I could use that myself. I got a little joy just hearing that creative use of Japanese, creative but still natural use of Japanese. Another one is in the same video that I just talked about, Ogiri, like Matsumoto Hitoshi, which is like one of the most famous comedians in Japan, was making fun of the other guy who's really bad at this particular form of comedy. And he used this expression that I just thought was so funny.
もし大喜利好きの動物がいたら陣内のとこには寄っていかない。
Which is like a really ridiculous thing to say. But he was like, if there was an animal that liked comedy, this animal wouldn't go anywhere near you. He's basically just saying like, you're not funny. It's more funny in Japanese because nani nani zuki no dobutsu is like kind of something you would say of like, this dog loves this type of meat or something, right? So if he smells this type of meat, he's naturally going to go towards you. But just framing it in this thing of like, yeah, if there was an animal whose favorite thing was this particular form of comedy, then this animal wouldn't go anywhere near you because you're not funny. You can't really translate the humor, but it's just like a super creative way of like, how would you even think to say that? I inherently get joy about that because first of all, like speaking this language, I'm viewing it almost like a sport that I participate in myself. If you care about and appreciate the language, then listening to articulate native speakers should feel like you're basically watching Olympic athletes compete in your favorite sport. On one hand, you can just marvel at the greatness, and there's a certain joy that comes from that. And there's the perspective of like taking notes in your head and being like, oh, I can use that move. You're like studying them, right? Of like, that's a really good move. I'm going to use that myself, kind of thinking about what you could incorporate into your own speech and things like that. And that adds an additional subjective element of value beyond just the content itself. And I don't get this from English because I don't trying to get better at English or learn English. So I don't really care as much. So this is a whole extra element of joy that I get just from the Japanese content. And the other thing here is I think there's this mental block that I know I've experienced as well, where you specifically mentioned that hearing the translated English proper nouns makes you feel silly, where you're just kind of like, okay, I'm basically listening to something that's getting translated into the target language. The information has a superior form in English. The Japanese version or the Korean version is like a translated or not as high quality presentation of the same information, and I understand it less. So I'm just having an inferior experience. I could go watch first class content in English and like enjoy it all the way and understand it effortlessly, or I could struggle to understand this kind of shittier version of it. And so then you just feel like, this is stupid. Why am I watching this inferior version? But the thing is, you're not just trying to absorb snippets of information. If all you cared about is, I need information, then yeah, go watch the English, whatever. But like, you're trying to get better at Korean. That's the whole point of this whole thing, right? That's why you're here in this community, why we're talking about this. You want to be able to understand and converse yourself about these topics in Korean. Watching the Korean version is what's aligned with your goals. That's what's going to make you better understanding Korean, better at talking about these topics yourself, because you're going to learn how they're going to talk about in Korean. It's going to make understanding Korean more effortless. So why would you feel silly about that? Like, you should feel silly about doing it in English when that's not what's aligned with your goals. And you're missing out on an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. Your goal is to interact with Korean people. You should be consuming the same thing that they're consuming, so you're on the same page with them. So you know, like, what words do they use? Like, what perspectives get presented in the content they're watching, and how do they talk about it so that you're on the same page with them. The other thing that I think is really important is to stop constantly making this comparison to English. This is kind of building off this previous point as well. But when I get stuck in that mindset of like, I could just do it in English, like what's the point of going out of my way to try to find content that's good in Japanese when I already know what content I like in English and it's going to get me the information or whatever. When you think about it, most of that's coming from this comparison of the English and the Japanese. This comparison is optional. You don't have to be comparing the Japanese content to the English content. You can just consume the Korean content and think about whether you're finding it interesting or not. English doesn't have to enter the picture. And so I think it can be really helpful to just put your foot down and make the decision, I'm only going to watch Korean content. And if you make that decision, you just put your foot down and decide, it makes it a lot easier to stop doing that comparison. And it's that comparison itself that's causing all of the pain and the emotional turbulence, right? Because if all you do is watch Korean content, then the question stops becoming, is this better than the English content? And it just becomes, is this the best Korean content I could be watching right now? Or is there better Korean content? And either way, you're going to be watching Korean content. And I experienced that this week. I kind of just decided, like I mentioned at the beginning of this workshop, that, okay, I'm going to be stuck in bed for probably multiple days in a row. At the time, I didn't even have enough energy to watch like a proper drama. So I just decided I'm just going to watch only Japanese YouTube this whole time. And at least I'm going to get a bunch of immersion in. Because I decided that, I wasn't thinking about, is this better than English content I could be watching? All I thought of is like, do I want to keep watching this video in Japanese or do I want to start watching a different video in Japanese? And I wasn't thinking about English. And when I went into that frame and I got used to it, I started enjoying it a lot more. Because comparison is the thief of joy. That's what they say, right? And when I just took the Japanese content for what it was, and I wasn't thinking, oh, but the English one would have even higher production value. Forget about the English content for a second. Then it's like, okay, I'm watching a video. They're talking about something I find interesting. These are thoughtful, intelligent people having an interesting discussion. I'm still getting the information anyway. I'm also getting better at understanding this type of information in Japanese and like getting challenged. It wasn't a problem. And I talked about this last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, but it's good to remember that this is what the Korean people are watching. And hopefully you have respect for Korean people that are only consuming Korean content, yet are still on the very cutting edge of whatever field they're in. And obviously that's the case. Like Korean people and Japanese people, there's many fields where they're competing on the cutting edge or dominant in certain fields. If it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for you, especially if you're trying to learn the language, right? So I think embodying that mindset of just like, I am Korean right now. I don't watch things in English, and just enjoy the game of taking that perspective of like getting to be a whole different person, have a whole different perspective. It's actually pretty fun when you take that on. It's like you're stepping into an entirely different world with its own meta, and you have to invest into it before it starts giving back to you. But if you do invest, then it really does. Sometimes I fall into this place. I'm like, oh, I've been learning Japanese so long. I'm good enough. Like, I'm so exhausted trying to get good at Japanese. Then I will feel this way. But when I'm just like hanging out with all the other people that are like just as good at Japanese with me or better, and I'm like, oh, I want to take this to the next level. Like, there's like always room for improvement. There's no reason to get jaded about it. There's so many things I can improve on. And I get kind of hyped about wanting to get even better at Japanese. Then it's easy to take this perspective. This is what's aligned with my goals. This is what's going to be better at Japanese. So of course it's what I want to do. There's nothing silly about, take your skills to the next level.